Hello, everyone. Welcome to the project webinar, Basic Training on Rough Diamond Grading and Valuation in Liberia. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Penelope Trescio, a volunteer of Diamonds for Peace and today's moderator. This webinar will last about an hour. The presentations will last around 40 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A session. But first of all, a little housekeeping. Please mute yourself. If you encounter any issue during the webinar, please send a message to the host using the chat box. And if you have a question about the presentation, please enter your question at any point in the chat box. We'll answer them in the Q&A session at the end, or we'll chat back. Please refrain from recording this webinar yourself. We will record this webinar ourselves and email the URL to participants. So don't worry if you have any technical issues during the webinar. And when you exit this room, you'll see a questionnaire. Please answer the questionnaire so that we can work towards improving any future sessions. As a way of introduction to today's webinar, I want to tell you briefly why I became involved in Diamonds for Peace. After graduating in gemology from GIA in 2010, I continued my studies while working in the luxury watch industry. I've noticed in more recent years a new focus on responsibility in mining. I heard about Diamonds for Peace at a responsible jewelry conference and admired all that Chia had achieved. I entered into contact with her, and as I'm at the moment finishing a graduate master's in corporate social responsibility, when I heard that Diamonds for Peace were looking for volunteers, I didn't hesitate to offer my services. So I'm really honored to be introducing our presenters today. So our first presenter is Chia Murakami, the project manager for the project Basic Training on Rough Diamond Grading and Valuation in Liberia. As a brief introduction for those who don't know, Chia founded Diamonds for Peace in 2015 in response to her own research into the darker side of the diamond industry after getting engaged and, of course, having received a diamond ring. With a background in international development, she was well placed to help. Our second presenter is Beth West. Beth is an award-winning gemologist, educator, and writer with 15 years' experience in the industry across varying roles. As a fellow and diamond fellow of the Gemological Association of Great Britain and a member of the Federation of European Education in Gemology, she has a wealth of passion and knowledge of her subject. Outside of her immediate professional responsibilities as director of GCS Laboratory in London, she works on a number of projects with a particular focus on gemological education and her work as a volunteer for the NGO Diamonds for Peace. So please welcome Chia for her presentation.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Chia Murakami, the founder for NGO Diamonds for Peace and the project manager for the project Basic Training on Rough Diamond Grading and Valuation in Liberia. We have implemented this project from January to May this year with the objective artisanal diamond miners and diggers learn the basics of rough diamond grading and valuation so that they may be able to attain a fairer distribution of profit in the future. The project team consists of 3 organizations: American nonprofit organization Empowerment Works, having a role of fund management, Diamonds for Peace, having a role to actually implement the project, and International Gemological Institute, having a role to provide technical expertise. This project is funded by the World Bank's EGPS Trust Fund, providing toolkits to 17 mining communities is sponsored by GEM-A and Tokyo Pearl Co. Limited. We have implemented this project in Liberia, a small country in West Africa, specifically targeting artisanal diamond miners and diggers in 17 diamond mining communities in Bomi and Bapol counties. We selected these communities because diamond mining is active in the western part of Liberia, including these counties, and because we have worked with them before in the COVID response project, as it takes time to build the working relationship with the communities, and we already had good relationships with them. Just for your information, when I say a miner, it means a person who has or who is supposed to have a mining license. When I say a digger, It means a person who actually work in the mine to look for diamonds. Some people can be miner and digger at the same time. We distinguish these two because these are the terms they use in Liberia. This is how we have implemented the project. We started with visiting all the targeted communities to explain about the project, obtain the consent from the community leaders. It's a protocol to work in Liberia. Otherwise, we are not allowed to meet with community members, including miners and diggers. After getting the consent for the project, we convened a meeting for miners and diggers to explain about the project, answer all the questions they had, and explain the process to select the official participants for the 2-day workshop. We asked some questions about diamond mining in the community in the meeting, and then we had interviews with the candidates participants and reference checked to see who are trusted in the community. Secondly, the trainers developed the bespoke training materials, such as manual and handout. We have 2 trainers, Hitindra Mistry and Bess West. I will introduce them later. In the survey, we came to understand that miners and diggers didn't know anything about diamonds, although they have been mining for many years. So the trainers carefully developed the materials to their level so that the participants could understand the content. Thirdly, we convened a 2-day workshop in Liberia, inviting 25 official participants. Beth will talk about the details later. Lastly, but not the least, the workshop participants held knowledge sharing sessions when they were back in the community to share what they have learned with fellow miners and diggers, and the project team observed these sessions. These photos are from the meetings we had with miners and diggers in the targeted communities. In the photo on the right, people raised their hands to the question, who really wants to participate in the workshop? Before we did interviews. We interviewed total 90 persons. I'd like to share some interesting findings. Most of the interviewees didn't know the words gemstone, flow, rough, and polish. Many interviewees believed that diamonds were valuable because it has many uses. For example, many people believe that diamonds are used in airplanes, and that's the reason airplanes can fly, and that's what makes diamonds so special. So that is why diamonds are valuable. Only 7 interviewees out of 90 knew diamonds were used in jewelry. They also believed superstitions and misinformations that their buyers gave. For example, most of the interviewees said water inside when they looked at the photo of a clean diamond. I thought it's just a figure of speech, but I found later that they believe diamonds actually had water inside. Another example is that they thought colored diamonds they sometimes find don't have any value because their buyers told them so. Okay, we had this question during the interviews. So now let me ask you the same question, but with 4 options only. And this is just for fun. Let me open the poll. Do you see the poll? Yeah, so please, you can answer which one is the most valuable on this photo, A, B, C, or D? Okay, thank you for your votes. It's interesting. Okay, one person answered A, and then 3 persons that answered B, and 2 persons answered D. Okay, thank you. And the correct answer is B. Yeah, so I think, yeah, half of you got the correct answers. Okay, I think that's very high percentage compared to the minors and diggers in Liberia, because only 5 interviewees out of 90 gave the correct answer, although they have been mining diamonds for many years. So based on these results, now you can also see the artisanal diamond miners and diggers in Liberia don't know anything about the diamonds, including the value. So we developed the criteria to select the workshop participants, scored each candidate on each category based on the information we got in the survey, and evaluated them. The criteria is, number 1, they can read and write, as they need to read the manual and work on tests and exercises. Number 2, they can calculate, as they need to work on the approximate price of diamonds. Number 3, they are citizens of the community, not a temporary resident, as they will need to teach other miners and diggers. And number 4, they are trustworthy. Trustworthiness is the most important criterion to select participants, because they are representing the community and responsible for sharing the knowledge with other miners and diggers when they are back. We emphasized that this project is for the entire community, not for the workshop participants only. People in those communities don't trust each other very much. That means if the participant is not trusted, people don't come to the sessions to learn because they don't believe what they were told. We asked around who are trusted when we visited those communities. And we also know some trusted people based on our experiences in working in those communities. So after this process, we selected 25 participants, 5 out of which are women. For women, we loosened the criteria a little bit, that they needed to understand spoken English instead of reading and writing English, because we found most women in rural communities don't read and write, but we wanted to have some female participants. The trainers developed the bespoke teaching materials such as manual, slides, handouts, worksheets, and tutorial videos. As it's not easy for participants to read, as 3 out of 25 participants are illiterate, and some participants were not very fluent in reading. So the trainers used as many visuals as possible. They also simplify the content so that the participants can understand. So here, I'd like to welcome Mr. Hitendra Mistry from International Gemological Institute to speak for a little bit.
Yes, hi everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
And thank you, Shi Murakami, for inviting me on this webinar. As she mentioned that this project was meant for the miners and diggers. So it was really a challenge for us to make a manual or a study material which would be easy for them to understand. Keeping this in mind, we developed the material based on the color, the clarity, the cut. Like for example, if you have a rough diamond, by looking at the shape of the rough, we explained them what could be the desired polished diamond that they can cut out of it. So we taught them not only about grading the color and clarity, but also to understand what can be the most desired shape that they can achieve from that rough diamond. Along with that, we also made an attempt to explain them the pricing of the rough with regards to the shape, color, and clarity. So definitely it was good working with the whole team. I really had a good time, and I'm happy to see that the project went well. And ultimately, the goal is that everyone should benefit from this. So thank you for allowing me to speak on this as well.
Okay, Hitindra, thank you very much for your speech. And also thank you very much for your assistance to this project. We really appreciate your help. Yeah. Okay. So now I would try to invite Beth West. She is the trainer on site for the workshop.
I'm coming. I'm
Okay.
coming. Can you see me?
Yes.
You can.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I can't see me, so that's a good thing. I will just start by sharing my screen with you all before I start chatting. Bear with me. Okay. Sharing slides. There we go. Okay, hopefully I'm up and running. As you're already aware, I'm Beth. I was the trainer on site for the project, and so for my part in this webinar, I wanted to give you a slightly more personal insight into my first-hand experience on the training, and how that experience consolidated categorically how important projects such as this are. And I'm going to start completely honestly with the bottom line. I had never been to Liberia before, and a lot of what I knew was built from preconception. Most people to whom I relayed my upcoming trip to were genuinely anxious for my safety, perhaps rightly. This image is a view from the plane as we were coming into land in Monrovia. And I had just been chatting to a UN diplomat on the plane who had been posted out in Liberia for several years at that point. And his single piece of advice to me was, do not get ill or injured, because the acronym JFK for the main hospital in the capital had been reassuringly adjusted by the locals from John F. Kennedy to just for killing. The facilities and lack of staff are so poor that should you indeed require an operation, you would have to pay for the equipment to be shipped in. And in much the same vein, as we were planning the trip, Air France, one of the two airlines that actually flew into Liberia, had suspended all their flights because they no longer deemed the airport in Monrovia safe due to regular power cuts and poor quality of fuel. So yes, I was a little nervous, but the image is beautiful, right? And I think perhaps someone like me coming in and this can be the biggest challenge really to begin with. From a citizen of a developed country looking into the developing world, it can be very easy to romanticize these regions of the planet. Okay, perhaps not romanticize, but certainly see it at a remove as something that we can experience, but then step away from, which somewhat obscures the truth of it and limits what we see, or at least allow ourselves to see. The image on the left, it's the market on the outskirts of Monrovia that I took. One of the first images I took, and I sent it to a relative who replied immediately how colourful the scene was. And the one on the right, admittedly, is an image I took as the sun was setting in Wizwa, and I posted that on Instagram. But ultimately, my point being, what we are seeing is abject poverty. There is no romance to it. Liberia is extremely poor, a quality that is easily measurable. Half of the population live below the national poverty line, which simply translates as an inability to meet their basic living needs. The majority of those who fall into that statistic can only be classified as living in extreme poverty, with an average income of less than $1.90 a day. And around 70% of that population live in the rural areas, places like Wizwa, where measurable poverty is even higher. And it is in these regions, that you will find the artisanal diamond miners. And it's not set to getting better. The cost of living is rising. Mineral resources like diamonds, often an important source of income for these countries, are becoming harder to find. So ultimately, the color and the beauty is often a fiction in a framed photograph. And to exemplify my point, the picture on the left is one of the local toilets used by any number of the communities, as most houses do not have facilities, and it is, without embellishment, a hole in the ground surrounded by corrugated iron for the sake of modesty. And the image on the right is the house of one of the diamond diggers, Victoria. And when I say house, I mean small room divided by a curtain where she lives with herself and all her family. Victoria is 50 years old and has been a digger all of her life. And whilst we were out there, I formed a particular attachment to Victoria. She had an enormous amount of strength. But I could also see that she was suffering. She had a headache for most of the time that we were out there. And I could see that was probably due to the fact that she had a cataract developing, which, although my husband did caveat me that I'm not an ophthalmologist, but may well be because of the sunlight reflecting off the water, which she stands in pretty much most of the day while she's mining these diamonds. But that can't be avoided. Victoria relies on those diamonds for an income. So just to give you a little bit of an insight into what I have learned about the history of diamond mining in Liberia. The first major diamond deposit was found in the country in 1957 along the Lofa River, one of the most northern rivers in Liberia and close to the border of neighboring Sierra Leone. Diamond production is not nearly as high as its neighbor. Currently, figures stand at around 50,000 carats per annum. In the mid-20th century, when diamonds were first found, that statistic was obviously a lot higher, peaking at around 600,000 carats per annum in the 1970s, although admittedly, the majority of those diamonds were those smuggled in from neighboring countries. The advent of two civil wars in the country, starting with the military coup in 1980, however, resulted in export sanctions being imposed on the country by the UN. But in 2007, the country joined the Kimberley process, and diamond has subsequently been re-established as an important mineral resource, particularly on the back of the recent discovery of diamond, well, I say recent, within the last 10 years, diamond-bearing kimberlites, with one cluster actually particularly close to Wizwa. These deposits haven't actually been commercially exploited. It's far too difficult to access them. Instead, the mining remains artisanal and the material is primarily found in alluvial places along the river. And just to let you know what you're actually looking at here, these are again 2 photos taken in Wiswa. The one on the left is one of the smaller mining sites, kids playing in the background. And the one on the right is actually a sign in the center of Wiswa, which reads, "Sell your diamond in Liberia to licensed dealers and brokers. Smuggling diamonds is a crime." So the miners and diggers that work these deposits, like Victoria, and we have got a photo of Victoria, I can show you a bit later on, are the first link in the complex diamond supply chain. But as is so often the case, they are the ones that see very little of the benefits of their country's mineral resource. And just as a matter of interest, from all the kids I spoke to, so all the school children I spoke to in Wiswa, they have been taught to understand that diamonds are their future, that they will bring money to their people. They understand that diamonds are minerals, they are mineral resources, but they don't actually know what that means. But they do know that minerals equal money. Bottom line, they get that. But such teaching does not incorporate the fact that in order for them to benefit directly from their parents need to receive a just price for the diamonds they sell. And this isn't happening. This parcel pictured is Victoria's. She showed it to me after the workshop, actually. And the diamond highlighted by the arrow, just to give you an indication of size, is about 80 points. Well, it is 80 points. It weighs in at exactly 80 points. And you can see from the image that they are good quality alluvial stones, and some potentially fancy in color. And she received $600 for that entire parcel, which is approximately half of what she should have received. So in order for these miners to get that fair price, they need to understand what they are selling before they sell it. And more than anyone in the supply chain, they need and have a right to this knowledge, because the knowledge just isn't there at the moment. I think Chair exemplified that earlier on in the in this webinar. This is pictured as an example of one of the pre-tests I put together for the participants. We put together for the participants. The answer to the first question, I mean, what is a diamond? It's a hard type of glass. I think that says it all, and there were an awful lot of answers like that. But one thing that was so very apparent right from the start, having met all the participants, was that they were genuinely hungry to learn. I mean, they were so excited for this training. To exemplify this, this is a picture of one of the miners sitting outside of the classroom, reading through the manual prior to the first day. It was first thing in the morning, well before breakfast. And hand on my heart, I took that photo out of my bedroom window. I was enormously nervous about the responsibility that I was taking on, and I took it incredibly seriously. Of taking advice from Ms. Tindra and other industry experts, I needed to be absolutely certain throughout those 2 days that the information I was giving them was exactly what they needed, and in a way that was designed so that they could share the knowledge with others in their communities. But as the teacher trainer on site, I also recognized my limitations. It was a basic training. It had to be. We only had 2 days to cover, as what you're all, I'm sure, all aware, is an enormously complex subject. And we were working without any rough material because we had problems accessing it. So I use doubly terminated quartz, for instance, to give them something tangible to work with when we were doing the loop exercises. So the bottom line, my goal, the one thing I wanted to put across more than anything was simple. I needed to help these miners understand as best I could throughout these 2 days the mentality of the diamond buyer and what it is the buyer is seeing when they are pricing up that rough. And bottom line, that is what grade a polished diamond or diamonds could be produced from that rough. This fundamental fact, as obvious as it may be to us, was a genuine revelation to the majority of these participants, most of whom did not even realize that a rough diamond could be cut and polished. So just to give you an overview of what was actually taught throughout those 2 days. This, just so you know what you're looking at again, this is a picture of them all still working after the electricity being cut for the day, after 4 o'clock. Again, underline, we're keen. So just to go through roughly what we did. The topics I covered in order were what is a diamond, because obviously that's the fundamentals of it all, and including where it comes from, how it's formed, how it's found. Then I looked at what the qualities are that make it valuable, through the 4 C's of a polished diamond in detail. And then thirdly, we looked at the rough diamond and how you interpret the grade of a polished diamond or diamonds that could be produced from that rough, which I explained using a 6-step process, which could be easily broken down. So that covered the difference between gem and industrial quality diamond, the weighing of the rough, its fluorescence, what that meant, its color, and then most importantly, whether it is a makeable or a soarable, and what that can tell you about, what that could tell them about its potential yield, which I explained using the term usable, thanks to a very wise friend. And finally, how the clarity of the rough diamond in turn can affect the yield. So you see there was an awful lot to put across. But throughout the 6-step process described above, I was sure to underline the fact that there will never be one way to cut and polish a diamond, and the cutter will obviously consider a variety of outcomes before they decide on what to produce. And this I exemplified using a basic exercise where two students were given the same hypothetical stone and both had to decide how it would be cut to produce the biggest and most beautiful diamond, which was a fun little exercise, and certainly opened up a little bit of a debate. Anyway, these steps gave them the information they needed to go on to work out a very approximate price for the rough using reverse price engineering based on B2B price of the potential polished stone, which was taken from the current wrap prices. Which was the goal of the 2nd day. And although it was quite an overwhelming amount of information, a lot of them mastered it very well. Obviously, again, the teaching was caveated with the fact that there are so many variables. I stressed this again and again when it comes to the price of diamonds, which the students very well understood. But what I had given them at this point, what we had given them at this point, was a valuable insight into the mindset of the diamond buyer, what these people who were buying these diamonds off them were thinking, how they were thinking, and the processes involved in pricing. Obviously, at the most basic level, we hope to do an advanced training beyond this. But what that was given them in those 2 days was knowledge that they did not previously possess, and knowledge that they genuinely felt was being denied to them. And this is the class. Genuinely lovely bunch of people. Yes, they genuinely felt that they were being denied this information, and which I suppose is true to a point. Denying certain actors knowledge allows others to retain control, and that is something that needs to change. Knowledge, or the sharing of it, is the key to building a stronger and fairer supply chain. It is one thing for it to be traceable, but it is quite another for it to be equitable and ethical. And for it to be the latter, there can be no information asymmetry. Each player has to be as empowered as the next. And one thing that allows for that empowerment is knowledge, and knowledge is a simple right. Admittedly, to conclude, this knowledge that we offered is not going to suddenly and significantly change these miners' lives. I recognize that we were, in this first basic level training, simply throwing a small pebble into a vast ocean. But the knowledge that they now possess will slightly strengthen their position in the supply chain, and eventually, as these miners insist on fairer prices for their diamonds, it will hopefully go towards improving their basic standards of living. So I end with a request to the participants of this webinar to use it not just as an opportunity to appreciate the incredible work that Diamonds for Peace are actually doing, but also to really think about the people Diamonds for Peace are trying to help, and to appreciate just how significant a role diamonds, these beautiful gems gracing many of our jewels, can play in the shaping of their and their children's lives. Thank you very much, and thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity to work on this project with you all.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, it's very interesting because yeah, your perspective is different from mine. Yeah, and I almost forgot those feelings, but you reminded me of the feelings when I first visited a developing country. So yeah, it's good to hear. So let me continue my presentation. Yeah, I'd like to share some photos from the workshop. So this is Beth teaching to the participants, and also Hitindra joining us online. And we had exercises. Yeah, so this one on the right side, they're practicing how to use loop. On the left one, the participant is showing how he came up with the remaining percentage of the diamond. And we also had exercises because we couldn't have real rough diamonds to work with. So she prepared worksheets. So the left photo shows the individual exercise, and the right photo is the group exercise that they are discussing the remaining diamonds after polishing. So this is the results from the pre-test and the post-test. Okay, so the maximum point for this test. Okay, these two tests are exactly the same test, so that we can compare. And score-wise, the median score for the pre-test was 3 among 7 maximum points, and the median for the post-test is 5 points. And okay, this minimum 0.5 point means somebody got the least score. One person got 0.5 points. But that increased, the minimum score increased to 1.25 for the post-test. And we also had the one person got the maximum score for the pre-test, which was 6.5, but he got 7 points for the post-test. And look at the figure on the right-hand side. For the pre-test, okay, we had 10 participants who scored less than 3 points, but that number decreased to 3 for the post-test. And for the pre-test, we had only one participant who got 6 points or more. Actually, that was 6.5. But that number increased to 10 participants who got 6 points or more for the post-test. So participants for this workshop learned well. We can say that. So, okay, before going into the knowledge sharing sessions, let me also share a brief video that one of the participants is speaking. Just a moment, okay.
My name is Blama V. Kone from Bama community. I'm happy for this training. It is my first time to attend such training. I have been in the mining sector. There are things that I learned from this training I never learned it before. Well, especially, I learned that the diamond can be cut. I didn't know that. I only knew that my rough diamond was so on its rough basis. Not knowing that, it had to be cut, polished, put into shape, and all of it has its own process. The processes are there. And so I'm happy that this training will help me improve my business in that I will get my just cost for my diamond I'll be finding. Before I get to the dealer, I will prepare my mathematical process that I learned from the training and know exactly how to battle my price with the dealer. So I'm very happy. I want to say the donors continue this training. This should be the last. We love it and we wish to learn more from it. And we'll put ourselves together. As I leave from here, I'm going to work in cooperative. We're going to organize ourselves as we were told last night from the training that cooperative work is essential. And so from there on, we'll work in cooperative and maybe we'll get feedback to the trainer.
Okay, so that was Lama, one of the participants. Actually, he understood the content very well. Okay, and let me also share another short video from a female participant.
I came on the workshop I saw the explainer, the trainer told us that red diamond value. Red diamond say I sold nothing. I not get nothing inside. The money I sold that red diamond for, it was 40 points. And not even care me for 2 days. The money finished. So through the workshop, I have learned that red diamond value. I can get diamond on my own.
Yeah, it was Mariama. She's one of the participants. And in this workshop, we discussed about the color of the diamonds. And the participants were very interested in that topic because they sometimes find colored diamonds. So Mariama was saying she found a red diamond before, but she sold it almost for nothing. the money she got from red diamonds sustained her only for 2 or 3 days. So, but because she learned the red diamonds has value, she will negotiate more when she find red diamond next time. Okay, so after the workshop, we observed all the workshop participants holding the knowledge sharing sessions, because we designed this project for the benefit of all the miners diggers in the mining communities in 17 communities. So these are the photos from with the community that the participants are sharing their knowledge. Okay, so this is a knowledge sharing sessions in a community called Yangaya. And here I would like to share a short video that a participant named Siafa, he's explaining about how diamonds are formed.
According to our study, they say the diamond, God did well for us. The diamond was so many feet, way under the ground. So many feet. And God made this diamond thing to be so important that we're going to use it. There are so many things, to be done. He said, but it remain way under the ground. Will the people be able? Because even said that one machine said will not decay. So what God did was, God sent children and force, they call it volcano. Hey, shut the ground. That diamond out way under. It came up. Boom. They call it volcanic eruption. That one, that material way under the ground. Rattle all of you. They get so hot. Then they find their way to come out. They come out, they fire. Where volcano can take place. That complete fire. Because all those things that come out, they are rock. But they've been way under the ground.
Yeah, in Liberia, especially in this part of the part of the region, there are many Muslims, and many of them believe a female demon called Jinnah put the diamonds in the soil. So they never knew how diamonds were formed in very deep in the earth. So before the workshop, we were worried a little bit if the participants could embrace the scientific idea how diamonds were formed. But they embraced the idea smoothly without a problem. So now these participants were telling how diamonds are formed to other miners and diggers in the community, and they seem to, to believe what he said. Okay, so this slide shows the number of participants in each community for the knowledge sharing sessions. So total 381 persons participated in the knowledge sharing sessions. And we also provided a toolkit for each community. And the toolkit contains a laminated manual, a loop, a digital scale, spare batteries, a ruler, calculator, UV torch, and a notebook. And we also observed each participant handed over the toolkit to the community leadership. So this photo shows the handover ceremony in one of the communities. We did this so that all the miners and diggers in the communities have access to the tools that they never had before. So as a way forward, in order to sustain these activities, the local team of Diamonds for Peace will continue monitoring the workshop participants, as they are supposed to check in with us at least once every 2 months. and we will encourage them to keep sharing the knowledge. And if we see a necessity, we will convene the knowledge sharing sessions again with our own funds and with the workshop participant and the local staff being trainers. We will also check with their progress on forming the cooperatives as we encourage them so in the workshop, because only 2 out of 17 communities have a cooperative. As way forward, we are thinking to have an intermediate or advanced training and refresher training in the near future. So we will plan the details and need to secure funds for the new project. We also intend to provide technical support to miners and diggers who want to organize themselves into cooperatives and expand these activities along with other activities we have been implementing to other communities, other regions, or other countries in the future. So thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you, Veth. Thank you, Hitindra, and thank you, Chi, for your most interesting presentations, which I'm sure have been eye-opening to many. Particularly personally, I feel so lucky that for me, knowledge is so easy. And then you see the kit being handed over. And for the rest of us in Europe, for example, it's just very simple for us. And yet it's such a big deal over there. And thank you also, Beth, particularly for your very honest and very emotional presentation. I think everybody here present will have felt, just as Cheers said, that, honestly, it came from the heart. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer. I have a couple here already. So if we can start, the first one is from Harriet, and she wants to know if these kinds of training workshops will soon be in Ghana, and otherwise if you're planning to organize any such trainings anywhere else.
Okay, thank you for the question, Harriet. I'd like to answer your question. Well, the answer is I'm not sure yet, because okay, we need to plan the project, but before plan a project in another country, because we haven't been to Ghana yet, we need to receive a request, because and also we need to understand the situation in Ghana and how people are helping themselves. Because one of the policy we have is we help people who are helping themselves. Because in many developing countries and also in Liberia, we have seen many people who say they need support, but they are only waiting and sitting and waiting for outsiders to come. But in that case, the project is not going to be successful. So we always need to assess the reality and then decide if we go in or not. So if you are really interested in receiving a training, please contact us. Thank you.
Okay, a second question. This one's from Laurie. I think you've sort of answered it by saying there were 381 people who were in the follow-up, but she wants to know how will you track whether this training is followed up by other people further on and later along the line? Do you go back there? Do you do a test afterwards, just to make sure that everybody in the community is able to benefit from what you've done?
Yeah, we will continue monitoring, and we can also talk with the workshop participants how they are doing via phone call, because they are supposed to check in with us regularly. And because we are planning to have the intermediate training or advanced training, one of the criteria to select the participants for the advanced training is that they need to share the knowledge with other miners and diggers. And we already told them so. So to, motivate them. So, and we also have a good relationship with them. So we can, keep tracking with them even after the project ends.
Okay, and this, because we're running out of time, so this is probably the last question. This is another one from Laurie. And her question is one actually I wanted to ask as well, is beyond the training, how are you going to be able to see whether they can actually get better prices for their stones? Is there anything that you can do further than the training to make sure that it actually happens and that not only do they get the knowledge, which is their simple right, but they also get a little bit more money out of that. Maybe Beth can answer that one as well. I don't know.
Yeah. Let me answer. Because in the interview before the workshop, and also during the workshop, we asked what is the price for the diamonds for small stones and also for single stones to each participant. So we have all the information. So we will conduct a small survey later after a few months, because just after the workshop, the workshop participants haven't had time to mine and sell diamonds. So we need to give them some time, but we will definitely conduct a survey to find out their prices for the stones and to see if the price has increased or not.
Okay, well, I think that those are the last questions. People are beginning to leave. There's just one question from Harriet, who's asking if she should reach out to you, Chi, about Ghana. Is that what she should do? Send you an email?
Okay, let me share the email address. You can email us to info@diamondsforpeace.org.
Okay, well, as this project is almost completed, we will continue to work towards the world in which diamonds are mined and processed, the humanitarian and environmental consideration. And I think that she has a few last words just to say, to thank everybody for their participation.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming and joining us today. I hope you enjoyed. And we will also share the video, the recording of this webinar, so that you can re-watch it. Yeah, and thank you really so much. Yeah.
And so there is a survey when you exit the room, which we most appreciated if you can fill it in, so that we can make sure that things are even better in the future. And please support any way you can, share as much as you can on your social media. It's a fantastic charity. I think Chi has done a wonderful, wonderful job. So personally, I'm very honored to have been here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hitindra, Beth, Penelope, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.